Welcome to the channel, guys. If you enjoyed The Evil Within 2, you will surely enjoy this video. We can look at the map from out of the bounds now and go to all of the secret areas and fully explore them, because I have a mod that can take us out of the map. So this is going to allow us to see everything that is hidden, a lot of the things that the developers didn't intend for us to see at angles we weren't supposed to see them. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff in this video. If you do enjoy those kinds of things, you'll actually find this quite informative, and I'm sure there's going to be some big things in here that will interest you. So without any further delay, let's just get right into it. Now, you can't go around the outside of the house, but there are some doors to the back garden here. Using the free cam, we can go to the other side, and you can actually see that the cupboards kind of have their own little room, and that on the outside of the house it is extremely dark. There's also one interesting thing here to note though that's already a little bit crazy, and that's the fact that there is a second Sebastian out here. I'm sure, to be honest, this is going to be a preloaded model to be used in the cutscene when you go to save your daughter. However, it's still interesting to see, and I'm not sure why they couldn't use the model that you're playing as. You can find this painting underneath the house, and I tried to find an event trigger for it. Maybe it's loaded somewhere as some of the debris fell, but I couldn't actually find a particular event trigger for it. So let's go see if all of the empty rooms actually have modeling done to them. Now, most of the rooms when I explored have the same generic model inside, and I do assume this is to give the impression that there is a room within, because you can see some kind of little window at the top of the doors, and this is just to give some detail to the player so they're not just staring at a black screen behind it. However, there is one room at the top opposite to Lily's room, and this one is like a little kind of office library and has a little bit of modeling done to it. It is inaccessible for now, but the modeling is completely here. I wanted to check Lily's room itself because you can't really get a good grasp of it when you're in the cutscene. You get to see nits and bits of it from angles, but here we can see a fully detailed environment, and the level of detail put into this environment for such a short cutscene is incredibly high. This is something I'll keep repeating throughout the video, to be honest, because there are areas that are extremely detailed even though we're only given a brief glimmer of them. However, there are some areas that you can't even see at all. They're completely obstructed to the player, and they are fully detailed as well, which is just really strikingly interesting and curious as to why the developers did that, and it's cool as a player to just see these things. I started to look around underneath the house and went into the garage, and I found a door that you can actually interact with. Do pay close attention here. You'll notice no matter how many times I try to bash it down at this particular time, you cannot break the door. However, when you go through the house and trigger a cutscene, which I'll show here, you can now break the door down. However, the door is inaccessible without NoClip. You just get bound behind this corridor and can't access the garage. So why this interaction exists, I'm unsure, but I'm thinking maybe it's a leftover asset from when the developers intended for you to take a different path to navigate through the house. So let's start going away from the house and the area where you're initially in, because there are some interesting things on the outside of this map. There are two other maps loaded within this area: the bar area that you go into in a cutscene in a few minutes, as well as the actual Mobius staging ground that you see, the one that Lily's hosted in and you're taken to as Sebastian. All of this is loaded into this initial environment, and this is where things start to get really interesting. So let's go ahead and drop ourselves in the hallway. When we drop into the hallway, you can actually see Kidman waiting at the front of it. This is in preparation for the cutscene where you're Sebastian and you're going to be rolled down the hallway. Interestingly enough, if you do get close to her, you just trigger the cutscene and you skip the bar cutscene completely, enabling you to progress through the game as per usual. You can look at all the elements that you would usually have to glance by very quickly and pay a lot of close attention to detail to all the nuances that are put onto them. But for the big reveal, which I'm sure many people have been wanting to see the most, let's go inside the actual STEM room and explore the beauty waiting within.
NoClip activated.
Looking around, you can see the level of detail put into this environment, but I'm going to walk down this little area here to show you something special. So you can actually see the administrator preloaded in as a model, ready for the cutscene if you remember where he's going to appear from behind the tanker. However, if you remember in the cutscene, he has a very clean face and his model is completely clean, but the one that has been preloaded here is the actual bloody model that you expect from the end of the game after the chip has been used to melt his brain. I'm a little bit unsure why the bloodied model is used here, but I just thought you guys would appreciate seeing this, and it's a little bit funny. It's also a little bit scary, a little bit terrifying how tall the administrator actually is. Now in previous cutscenes, I didn't get the impression he was this tall. Compared to even Sebastian, he is overwhelming. So the intimidation and fear factor of the administrator is much higher than I initially thought. I wanted to check the pods out, as many people probably would have, to see how many of them were actually empty, how many were filled, and if we could see anybody that we could remember from the actual game, or maybe even some future hints at things. Now there are 2 unidentified Mobius operatives, or if you guys remember who these are, maybe they're some of the guys that were executed early in the game, I'd appreciate that, but these 2 I don't remember particularly. There are only 3 other beds that are actually occupied, with the rest of them being completely empty, but the interesting thing is, there was a little bit of foreshadowing and an Easter egg here. Look who it is! It's O'Neill. Do you remember this guy? The guy who was a part of the entire game and was instrumental to us surviving, and then turned on us, and then we had to kill him? Why didn't Mobius just unplug him there and then and destroy the entire brain of his, and we could have just skipped past that boss and completely bypassed all of that drama? I'm just saying, he's right there, plump for the picking. Second, we have Yukiko, which is our team psychologist, if you remember, who provided us a lot of analysis over the psychology of Stefano so we could take him down. She was also instrumental towards the progression and saving of Lily, and you can see her here in this bed as well. And for our final contender, we have Sykes. Now this is interesting, Sykes specifically, because he might be actually still in the system if you guys remember from the side quest, which means that he'd still be laying in this bed all peacefully and woe, but I'd actually feel a little bit bad if that's the case, because it would mean that Kidman and Sebastian just left him there to rot. Considering he helped Sebastian out, that's just a giant dick move. Now, I looked in the central canister to see if we can actually find Lily. I'm sure many people are wondering if Lily's actually inside, because at the end of the game we do pull her from it. Not only did I look inside the canister, I also looked above, below, and all across the entire facility and could find no model for her. Even though the administrator's model is loaded from the end of the game, Lily isn't here, and why that is quite curious, considering she's a central NPC to this actual piece in question. Looking above the actual core, you can see the main device that has a lot of wires attached into it. So this will be the central core that controls all the power, cooling, and all the other systems, as well as the fact that I do believe a lot of these wires that go out, and especially when you go above, extend to other facilities and rooms that also house more pods and individuals. How far this extends across is actually unknown, but knowing Mobius, they could have had a superstructure facility like an industry warehouse, because the amount of individuals in the STEM environment and the size of Union itself was just ridiculous. I wanted to visit the administrator's office last to see how beautiful and decorated this environment actually looks, and as you guys can see, not only is it well detailed, there's a lot of particle effects and god rays coming from the back to emphasize those cinematic cutscenes. These were placed so that they affect the cutscene in real time instead of being applied as an effect afterwards. If you remember playing as Kidman near the end of the game, you have to exit through a door at the end of this room. When you go to this door, you can actually interact with it at this point, and this actually allows you to see out into the netherworld where Hades is living below. If you looked hard enough, you could probably find him and say hello.
NoClip deactivated.
This concludes our tour of the Mobius facility. I hope you enjoyed your stay and you're looking forward to the future of humanity in the form of Wi-Fi hive minds. There's one last place I want to show before we end part 1 of this series, guys, and that's going to be the bar scene. So if you guys remember, this was only a cutscene, but the entire environment is loaded into this map as well, so we can go visit that area and see if there's any unique interactions or anything that you wouldn't be able to see in the cutscene normally. The entire area is surprisingly nav-meshed. Now this is what developers have to do to allow you to walk through the environment without clipping through it. This is curious, but I do assume it was just to make the scene a little bit easier to animate. You'll notice when we go into the bar itself, none of the Mobius NPCs, Kidman or anyone else is present, so these were loaded in elsewhere and I couldn't find them in the map, so I'm not sure at what point these were loaded. I'm going to once again appreciate the staggering amount of attention to detail and quality for such an inconsequential scene that is used for such a little portion of the game. The amount of detail in all of this environment is quite beautiful, and even the behind of the bar has been fully modeled. For what reason I do not know, because we do not see these things in any capacity. I just want to say, Metal City, I made you proud and completely broke the game. So the last piece of footage I'm going to leave you guys with before we say goodbye here is me just destroying the game, and I'm not really particularly sure what I did here, but I just completely screwed things up. If you enjoyed the video, guys, please leave a like and a subscribe. I truly appreciate that. I just hope you're having a beautiful day. As always, take it easy and peace.
So this is the almighty Mobius, huh? Yeah. Great. We're right. So powerful they have to kidnap a washed-up ex-cop to help them. Enough of this bullshit. Where's Lily?
Setback. But we used the knowledge gained to build a new and vastly improved STEM system.
What does this have to do with my daughter?
Imagine it. Millions of minds connected together. Happiness for one.